If you look around today, body fat is viewed as a modern crisis. We blame the drive-thrus, the desk jobs, and the processed sugar. But if you could jump into a time machine and travel back 30,000 years into the deep past, you would find a world where the rules of survival were completely inverted. In the ancient world, your body had one primary, exhausting mission: get fat or die trying. To our ancestors, body fat wasn't a health hazard. It was a biological bank account. It was insurance against a brutal winter. It was, quite literally, a superpower. For 99% of human history, being fat was physically impossible for the average human. And yet, nature ruthlessly favored the humans who were absolute masters at storing it. But here's where it gets strange. The very genetic code that kept our ancestors alive through the Ice Age has become our biggest modern vulnerability. What happens when a survival program designed for extreme scarcity suddenly gets dropped into a world of endless abundance? The real surprise came when historians and geneticists started looking backwards. They realized that human success didn't just change our societies, it broke our biology. And the clues to how this happened are locked in ancient medical scrolls, mummified royalty, and a strange genetic glitch we still carry in our cells today. To understand how ancient humans dealt with weight, we first have to understand the sheer mathematical brutality of prehistoric life. Imagine a world with no grocery stores, no refrigerators, no backup plan. If you wanted to eat, you had to hunt down a massive, angry mammal or spend hours foraging for wild berries. Some weeks the tribe feasted, but most weeks they faced absolute starvation. Because of this constant cycle of feast and famine, evolution didn't care if you had a lean, chiseled body. It only cared if you could survive a 3-week drought. And that's when researchers noticed something impossible. The humans who survived weren't the strongest or the fastest. They were the ones with a specific genetic survival mechanism. Scientists call it the thrifty gene. Think of it like a hyper-aggressive biological accountant living inside your DNA. Its job was to take every single extra calorie from a successful hunt and immediately lock it inside a vault. That vault is your fat tissue. If your metabolism was too fast, you burned through your fuel and died before spring. But if your body was thrifty, if it eagerly packed on fat, you lived to pass on your genes. We know our ancestors idolized this ability because of what they left behind in the dirt. Take a look at the Venus of Willendorf. It's a tiny stone statuette carved nearly 30,000 years ago. She doesn't look like a modern fitness model. She is realistically heavily obese. For decades, textbooks claimed nomadic, starving cave dwellers carved these figures as random art. But the truth is far more fascinating. She wasn't a representation of average life. She was a symbol of ultimate wealth, fertility, and divine survival. To a Paleolithic human, a body like that meant you were successfully cheating death. But this biological superpower had a massive catch. The system only worked as long as food remained incredibly scarce. And then, humans stumbled upon an invention that completely broke the evolutionary matrix. What happened next changed everything. Around 12,000 years ago, humans invented farming. We stopped running. We settled down, and for the very first time in human history, an elite class of people stopped moving entirely. Agriculture gave the world something it had never seen before: a massive, predictable surplus of carbohydrates, wheat, barley, beer, and liquid gold, raw honey. The ancient survival code running inside the human body was suddenly flooded with fuel it didn't know how to handle. And that's when the world's first cases of widespread obesity quietly emerged. But it didn't happen to the farmers working the fields. It happened at the very top of the social pyramid. For a long time, we could only guess what ancient royalty looked like based on statues and wall paintings. Egyptian art always depicted pharaohs as lean, muscular, godlike figures. But the real surprise came later, when modern scientists put those pharaohs through CT scanners. What the scans revealed shocked the medical world. The mummies of Egyptian royalty, including the famous Queen Hatshepsut, were not lean at all in real life. The scans showed layers of excess fat tissue, but it went deeper than that. Scientists found evidence of blocked arteries, severe cardiovascular disease, and bone damage consistent with advanced diabetes. They were living on a heavy diet of refined breads, honey, and alcohol. Their bodies were doing exactly what the thrifty gene dictated, storing the surplus. But because the famine never came to empty the vault, the system began to choke on its own wealth. The elites of the ancient world had accidentally created the first modern food environment, and their biology responded by triggering the first modern health crisis. As these great empires grew, obesity ceased to be a rare anomaly among the kings. It became a recognized medical emergency. When the ancient Greeks and Romans inherited this new world of luxury, their greatest minds realized something had gone profoundly wrong with the human body. And that is when the world's first doctors stepped in with some of the most bizarre and brutal medical cures in human history. But what exactly did they prescribe? By the time we reach 400 BCE, the ancient world was paying close attention. The legendary Greek physician Hippocrates began to notice a terrifying pattern among the wealthy citizens of Greece. He wrote what is now considered the world's very first clinical description of obesity-related death. He observed that people who were naturally very fat died much earlier than those who were lean. He explicitly documented sudden cardiac death in large individuals, warning his students that it wasn't a random curse from the gods, it was a predictable medical pattern. But Hippocrates didn't have access to gyms or calorie tracking apps, so he designed a protocol to force the body back into an artificial state of prehistoric survival. His prescriptions were unyielding. He ordered his heavy patients to eat exactly 1 meal per day. He forced them to perform grueling physical labor on an empty stomach. He made them walk massive distances while completely fasting. But his most bizarre instruction? He forced them to sleep exclusively on rock-hard surfaces. Why? Because he believed if a body rested too comfortably, it would become soft, sluggish, and lazy, refusing to burn its inner fat stores. As the centuries rolled on, the treatments only became more elaborate. By 400 AD, a Roman medical genius named Galen took over the care of the Roman elite. He saw that luxury was destroying the health of the empire's ruling class. He developed a highly structured obesity protocol. It included graduated exercise, extreme food restrictions, and a deeply specific, intense therapeutic massage of the abdominal region. But here's where it gets truly unbelievable. Galen publicly stated that the liver was the primary organ responsible for fat accumulation in the human body. He deduced this using nothing but basic observation, nearly 1,800 years before modern medicine officially identified non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in ancient India, the exact same battle was being fought. Medical scholars compiled a monumental text called the Charaka Samhita. Inside, they detailed a specific disease they named Medoroga, the disease of excess fat. Their cure sounded like a sacred ritual. They ordered patients to drink raw honey dissolved in warm water at the exact moment the sun rose. They flooded their systems with specific, intensely bitter herbs, and they demanded deliberate, exhausting physical exertion before the patient was allowed to touch a single bite of solid food. Do you see the patterns connecting Greece, Rome, and India? Every single one of these ancient civilizations was trying to solve the exact same riddle. They were manually trying to recreate the harsh, unforgiving conditions that the hunter-gatherer world used to provide automatically. Fasting windows, hard rest, bitter foods, forced movement. The ancient treatments worked, but they worked imperfectly, because the doctors were trying to cure the individual without realizing that the world around them was shifting permanently. They didn't realize that the 3 massive environmental disruptions, the depleted gut, the broken sleep, and the infinite stress loop, were slowly locking into place. The history of obesity is not a story of human failure. It is a story of human success. For hundreds of thousands of generations, your ancestors fought a daily war against nature just to stay alive. They developed a brilliant, flawless biological program designed to protect you from the dark, cold threat of starvation. And then, in the blink of an eye, we changed the world. We built an environment where food is infinite, sleep is optional, and stress never ends. We didn't lose our willpower. We simply lost the environment our biology needs to understand reality. The next time you look in the mirror or feel like a diet has failed you,
remember what the actual problem is. Your body isn't broken. It is running a perfect 300,000-year-old survival program. Someone simply changed the world around it, and nobody bothered to tell you that was the reason. If you enjoyed watching this video, like and subscribe for more.